Ray, people will come, Ray.
They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have and peace they like.
Ray, just sign the papers.
And they'll walk out to the bleachers. Sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game, and it'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Just a Couple of Guys with your hosts, Pat Crimmins, and yours truly, Ray 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐞, now in our second year. Pat's on assignment today, fighting, of course, for truth, justice, and the American way. So our producer, Paul Stukel, will join me today here at Northwestern Medicine Field. Baseball is upon us, so what better way to introduce the topic than to have our good friend, general manager of the Kane County Cougars, Curtis Haug, joining us to look at the 2023 Cougars. Curtis will join us in a moment, but when we return, Paul and I will give you our opinions of the upcoming American and National League pennant races. But first, a word from one of our fine sponsors. Stay tuned.
Hello, friends. This is Ray 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐞. You face technology challenges every day that threaten to steal business, compromise data, and bring your business down. Without a good partner to help protect from phishing, ransomware, viruses, data breaches, employee turnover, and cybersecurity threats, your business is at risk of losing everything. TechWorks has been the trusted IT partner to Fox Valley businesses for over 20 years, keeping systems secure and providing extraordinary customer service, helping your business grow. Call TechWorks today at 630-482-2227 or visit www.techworks.com. That's TechWorks with a Q. TEQ works, and see how TechWorks IT service can transform and secure your business.
People will come, Ray.
You're broke, Ray. You sell now or you lose everything.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Well, we're back here at Northwestern Medicine Field, and Paul is sitting here with me today, anticipating our interview with Curtis, but we thought we would talk for a minute about our personal picks for the upcoming baseball season. Both of us are big fans, and of course, on the opposite side of town, I think it's been well said now after a full year. We know that Paul's a Cubs fan, and I'm a White Sox fan. But having said that, we like baseball a lot. And so I think we're in a position to at least give our thoughts on it. And of course, you have your thoughts as well. And we'll see how it plays out. We'll play the tape in October and see who's right. So, Paul, the pennant races, I think, are a little bit more wide open. A lot of good teams in baseball this year.
There are. And there are a lot of good young teams, which I think is going to make it very, very interesting. And I look at, just as an example, I look at your division. You know, there's a lot of good young teams in your. Cleveland's a young team. You guys are still a young team. Right now, Detroit's got a lot of young players. I think there's an interesting, and I don't know about the Twinkies, but I think there's a lot of young. I mean, and then you look at Baltimore, over in the East, American League East. There's just a lot of neat young teams, so I think they'll provide some surprises as we go along.
Well, you and I talked offline, and we both agree that Baltimore may be the surprise team of baseball this year. Just to your point, a lot of good young players, and they're in a rough and tough league, obviously, with the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Rays, and the Jays. And how do you get to the top? I don't know, but maybe their goal is a wild card, and there are 3 wild card teams. So I suppose at the end of the day, anything's possible. But I like Baltimore, just like you do, to be a surprise. And, for those of you who like to go to the window, might be a good long shot bet to win the division. You probably get great odds on that one. You mentioned the American League Central. I can start there by saying I am not going to, like I did last year, put my foot in my mouth and predict the White Sox to win it. In fact, I think you're right. Cleveland is probably the team to beat. When you think about that, they've got McKenzie and Bieber in the starting rotation. Those guys are lights out. They got Ramirez, MVP candidate every year. The guy just plays third base and hits the ball a ton. And they got probably one of the best closers in baseball in I think it's Class A, who closes for the Indians. So I said Indians, Guardians, excuse me, but
Call them the tribe.
Old habits are tough
I'm
to
not
break.
calling them the tribe. I can't.
They're tough to break. But I would say the Guardians are the favorite, and the White Sox. I'll just make this comment: if they stay healthy and all those players play up to their potential, they'll be a force. But who's to say? I'm not going to go on a limb. And you mentioned the Twins. I think they'll be tough. They're always tough. And the Tigers and the Royals, they have enough good young players. It'll be an interesting division. In the East, Yankees are still the class. I don't know how you can fight City Hall on that one, but the Blue Jays and the Rays are always there with a salary schedule that's one of the lowest in baseball, and yet that manager Cash gets everything out of them.
I love the Rays. I loathe their fans who never show up. Their ownerships,
and I loathe their ballpark.
Yeah, their ballpark, their owners. I loathe all of them except the people on the field, because you're right. Every year, somehow they're there at the end. It's amazing.
And I wrote down some players in the Blue Jay lineup in beautiful Toronto. And when you got Vlad and Bichette and George Springer, I don't know. And then they've got this guy Merrifield. They got him from the Royals. He wins. And so I can't count the Jays or the Mariners. The Mariners with Castillo and Robbie Ray and the pitching staff, and then they got Julio Rodriguez. They made the playoffs last year. Yep. Those teams are going to be tough, and I would say those are your wild card. But the Yankees, I think, is still the favorite in the East.
I don't think there's any question about that. Although again, given their recent history, because they just ran away with it last year during the regular season, if you recall. I mean, they were. I mean, the East seemed to be over. Hell, the entire American League seemed to be over until about halfway through, because they were at an historic pace, as I recall. And then you saw what happened to them in the playoffs. And that's what keeps happening to them. So sure, they should be a dominant team, but I'm not making any bets on them in the playoffs. I'm just not doing it anymore. And same with the Dodgers. I feel the same way about the Dodgers.
Well,
the Dodgers should win it every year.
Yeah, we'll get the National League. But I before we leave the American League, I would just say this. We didn't mention anything about the West, but I would say it's the Astros and everybody else. Yeah. No sense even discussing it at this point. They add a guy who just plain wins. When I say wins, I'm not talking about the team, but as an individual player, Jose Abreu, I miss him. I'm not sure it may have been the right move for the White Sox, but I'll still miss him. He was a class act, sure, and he'll just add to the punch of the Astros, and I see them winning the American League pennant myself.
Yeah, me too. You know what? As an interesting team to watch, and these are it's like the old joke. Brazil is the perpetual country of the future, right? The Angels are that way. The Angels are going to be interesting to watch because, I mean, obviously you've got Ohtani and Trout, and this is Ohtani's contract year, I think.
It is.
And I saw some projections, and it's amazing. They cut the projections in two: one as a hitter and one as a pitcher. And as a pitcher, so really it would be a combined. You'd add them, and it was like one was like 250 million, one was 380 million.
Well, I'll ask you this question.
Amazing.
Can he become baseball's first $500 million man?
Well, he might. I mean, if you believe those numbers, so they're basically saying his value as an everyday player hitter, it was something like 250, something like that. It's probably over 10 years or more. And then his value as a pitcher was something like 350. So he very well might get over 500 million. Now, I don't know, other than the Yankees or the Dodgers, I can't think of anybody else who could pay that. I mean, you don't have anything left for the rest of your team. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but it's entirely possible. So it'll be interesting to see if they finally get over the hump.
I don't know how they defeat the toughest union in the United States, but I am for a salary cap in baseball to go along with the other three sports, and I think you do get much more equality over a 10-year period as far as champions and even contenders. So I'm for that, but it'll be tough to negotiate that with the baseball players. That's just one tough union wins every time in the home stretch. When the spring training doesn't start and all of a sudden you have a delay, the fans, they say, the hell with it, even though they're paying. Now we're paying some ridiculous prices for box seats and so forth. Anyway, to the National League real quickly, and we'll start with your division, the Cubs division, the Central. I don't know. To me, there's not a dominant team in that division, but I think the Cardinals still have the class of the division. They pick up your guy, who I think was a Cougar here, Wilson Contreras, and with Goldschmidt and Arenado and the corners and a pitching staff that's well above average. I don't know how the Brewers or the Cubs, I discount the Reds and the Pirates, dent that at this point.
It's the same old story. The freaking Cardinals, they're always there. It's just frustrating as hell for a Cubs fan. I couldn't argue with you on that. I do have as one of my surprise teams maybe the Cubs this year, because they really did add a lot in the offseason, and I'm really excited about that. I mean, they spent a lot of dough, which we were finally asking them to do in free agency, and they could surprise a lot of people. I don't think they're there yet. I think they're a year away. I think they've got another year of buying people, and then getting some folks up from their farm team. But I think they could be a surprise. However, I do think the Cardinals are probably the favorite there. Who knows with Milwaukee, but the Cardinals are just too consistent. That's the thing; they're too consistent. And as you said, they got a nice lineup.
It is amazing to talk about. They could be a surprise, and the White Sox, I said earlier, could be a surprise if everybody stays healthy, but. It's interesting to note that we talked offline about this, that the PECOTA ratings came out today, and both the Sox and the Cubs are not even projected to win 80 games. That's below 500 in baseball speak, and a bit frustrating for me. You guys are still rebuilding, and we've rebuilt. We've got players that can do it, but injuries, who knows? And so I'm just gonna leave it at that. And
I'll tell you what. I mean, in fact, I may do this. I'll take the over. I would bet the over heavily.
I would as well if I was going to the window. Fact, remember, this is always for recreational purposes.
That's right. This is only idiots like me throw their money away. But to me that's a good bet, because I have a lot more faith in the Sox than you do, and I understand where you're at. I mean, last year was devastating.
Got burned. They got burned
Last year was devastating. So.
In the National League East, the Braves are to me the dominant team with 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐞 and Riley and Olson, all MVP candidates. And you say, well, what about the Phillies? Well, I think they might be in the wild card hunt, but when you got Harper out for half the year, and let's see, what's his name? I pronounced that right, Hoskins? He's out for the year with the ACL.
Yeah.
I don't know. They have a big mountain to climb. Their manager proved that they could do it, and they got the World Series last year. But I see them in a wild card hunt along with the Mets and the Dodgers. The Mets lose Diaz. That's tough. They still have Verlander. They have that new guy, 𝐂𝐚𝐥𝐿. And, of course, they have Mad Max. But I look for Verlander or Max at their ages to have some kind of injury during the course of the year.
Yeah.
The Mets, I think they're overrated myself. The Dodgers, you mentioned the Dodgers earlier on the wild card side. I think that's where they'll be at. And I'll get to the Padres in a second, because they lose Lux for the year, and Trey Turner's off to the Phillies.
Right.
So
right.
Those are tough people to replace.
They are.
They always seem to do that, but my money rests with the Braves in the East. And hey, the Padres, I'll tell you, Bogart, Soto, Tatis will be back at some point early.
They are loaded.
And of course, Manny Machado.
Yep.
My friend in San Diego says they're selling out most of their games already. And I think the Padre fans, coming off that very emotional win in the playoffs against the Dodgers, I think they're ready to go. So I like the Padres actually to be the National League champions. And I think a Padre Astro World Series would be quite something. And I'll give it to the Padres this year and say, I'm going to go out and live and say the Padres become the new world champions of baseball.
Interesting. Well, it's a long time coming for them. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. I mean, it's been a long time coming for those guys. But I'm still intrigued by the Mets. And by the way, I think the Giants might be surprising as well. They're just in such a tough division. I mean, you look at the American League East and the National League West. I mean, those are brutal divisions where you've got just gobs of talent. Now, we've got a different is it this year? I think they implemented it this year. It's a different schedule this year, right?
Every team will play every other team.
Right.
I have season tickets to White Sox, so I will tell you, half of the National League comes to guaranteed rate, and the White Sox go to the other half on the road for 3 games.
Right.
This is in the National League. So, yeah, it is a different schedule.
So you don't play your division as much, I don't think.
Only 12
right,
instead of 18 or 19.
So it's a different dynamic. I mean, that's a big difference. I mean, you play half as much. And I'm intrigued to see how that impacts the divisional races. But I'm still intrigued by the Mets, and maybe not during the season, but if they get to the playoffs, having that 1-2 punch on the starting rotation is pretty tough. I mean, so you can almost sometimes view teams as regular season champions, but other guys that have great pitching can always make a lot of noise in the playoffs. Because they can just mow you down. It's like having a hot goalie in hockey, right?
Right.
It's the same concept.
And the Cup playoffs are starting, and you're exactly right.
You never know.
You never know. But who is your champion?
All right, you're pinning me down here.
Oh yeah, we gotta put it on the tape.
You gotta put Houston out with them. I mean, I know that's a boring pick, but it is what it is. You gotta put Houston out there. I don't see anyone catching up to them yet. National League intriguing question, and I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres. I have to. My heart's with them again because it's been so long for them, and they worked really hard. They spent a lot of money. They deserve it. And anybody but the Dodgers, or anybody but the Mets. Thank you.
Well, we're in agreement on that. I like
the Cardinals. Sorry.
Yeah, of course, there was a nightmare TV ratings when those small cities get to the World Series.
Yeah,
and a Houston-San Diego is not going to be as intriguing as a Dodger-Yankee World Series, which would, be a blockbuster rating.
Of course.
I'll say this in closing to our friends in our audience. What do we know? What do you know? It's always a guess, but it's always fun to do that. Just like we did the NCAA tournament where I said Marquette and Gonzaga. What did that get? But I did want to remind you, you go back and play the tape. I did mention Florida Atlantic. I didn't say they were going to be in the Final Four, but I said a team to watch, a team that could break your brackets. So just remember that. So I'll say that, and we'll close, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors with our friend, General Manager Curtis Haug of the Kane County Cougars. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. When you think about buying a new or used vehicle in the Chicago market, there's only one name that really stands out: McGrath. When you are thinking about which brand is synonymous with reliability, value, technology, and performance, it's Honda. Put the two together and you have two great options: the all-new McGrath Honda in St. Charles and McGrath Honda in Elgin. Both stores are ginormous with acres and acres of inventory. Choose from Honda Civics and Accords, CR-V and Passport, even the Ridgeline truck. Visit our brand new location, McGrath Honda in St. Charles or McGrath Honda in Elgin. You'll be glad you did.
Red, I wanted to win that pennant worse than I wanted any goddamn thing in my life, and you'd think I could just this once, wouldn't you? I didn't care nothing about the series. Win or lose, I'd have been satisfied. I'd have walked away from baseball and I'd have bought a farm.
Nothing like a farm. Nothing like being around animals, fixing things. There's nothing like being in the field by yourself with the vegetables and the corn, the winter wheat. Green stuff you ever saw?
You know, my mother told me I ought to be a farmer.
My dad wanted me to be a baseball player.
Well, you're better than anyone I ever had. And you're the best goddamn hitter I ever saw. Suit up.
We are back and very pleased to welcome here at Northwestern Medicine Field a man who's become our friend after just a year, a good friend, the rock solid general manager of the Kane County Cougars, Curtis Haug. Curtis, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having the show out here. It's great timing. Obviously, spring has sprung, and we're looking forward to another season. That's for sure.
Well, we're very pleased as well. We'll talk a little bit later on about what we have plans for the summer with just a couple of guys on the Cougars. But let me start on a more somber note, just as we get going in this interview here, because I think it's only fitting that we honor a man who he did start his gig, if you will, as a Kane County Cougar announcer, then went on to do pre and post game with the White Sox. I used to listen to him quite a bit. And then, of course, a long time announcer for the Tampa Bay Rays, and that would be one Dave Wills. And I'd like you to share with our audience some thoughts about Dave and his passing.
Dave was one of the original six. When we say original six, he was one of the original six employees of the Kane County Cougars. And, his tenure here was 1991 through 95 as our radio broadcaster, back when radio was the thing. And, he was a real special person. He really cared about this place. Obviously, he was, part of the original crew back when, in 1991. And, I reached out to Bill Larson, and Bill was the original general manager here. And Bill reflected on some things about Dave that were fun and interesting. And one of the things was when Dave sent his tape in, for the job, Bill never even listened to the tape. He just loved Dave, and he hired Dave, not without even listening to the tape. That's unheard of. And the rest was history with that. And Dave was just very gregarious, very family oriented, obviously from the South Side,
Right.
where he grew up. And he loved to have fun. And it's really sad to see that, him go for sure, way too early.
Yeah. Now, on a positive note, another one of your employees is we interviewed him last summer when he was the Mets announcer, but now Wayne Randazzo has surfaced as the lead television man for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Amazing. Yeah. Wayne does a great job. He did a great job here. He's a local kid.
Right.
And, he's really done a great job for himself. I mean, he's a bulldog, he's one of those guys that, he gets what he wants, and he's definitely very talented and not just with radio, but with TV. And he's got the face for TV. That's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, pisses me off. Those of us who can't aspire to that, unfortunately.
As we discussed last year at this time when we were here, in 2020, you guys took what I would call a double near fatal hit. First of all, the taking away of your affiliation with a major league team, forcing your independence, if you will, and also COVID. And so you're here still kicking. You're part of the venerable American Association. And I'd like you to just tell us what your feeling is now that that double hit is come and gone and you're ready to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite the double hit, that's for sure. And we we've come out of it. Obviously 2020 was a lost year. 21
near death experience
for sure. It was a lost year. 21 we came back, obviously as part of the American Association, which is a really great league. It really is. When it comes to all the Major League Baseball partner leagues, it's definitely the best of the bunch. And we 2021 we're probably about 50%, based on all the COVID restrictions that were still in place, and we did fairly well. 22, guess what? We're probably 75-80%. We're getting a lot better. Things are loosening up, and it was our second year in the association. And this year, 23, we're feeling like we're going to be back to 100%. Ticket sales are really good right now.
Great.
Group sales, packages, all the stuff that goes with ticket sales, really, really good right now. Very encouraging, and we're coming off a good year last year where there's just a lot of positive vibes. And
well, speaking of last year, the Cougs, they finished at 52-46. That was tied for first place with the Chicago Dogs in the Eastern Division. You got beat in the playoffs. How do you assess the last year's performance, particularly a review perhaps of last year, and then look, we're going to move forward to this year?
I thought last year, obviously our second year in the American Association, we had a little more time to put the roster together, and George Samus, our manager, does a great job with that. And I would say the first 3 quarters of the season was kind of win one, lose one. We really couldn't get on track, but we got hot in August, and we ended up tying for the division, right. And we made the playoffs, and obviously we lost in the first round. But I thought there was a lot of good things that came out of the second, the late part of the season last year, and I think it gives us a lot of momentum going into 23.
This would be your third year in the American Association, and would you say at this point that the Cougars have developed any kind of natural rivalries with any of the teams?
I would say for sure Chicago, the
Dogs,
and Milwaukee too. We feel like
the Milkmen
is a rival as well. I mean, it seems like those two teams in our division we seem to scrap with and pretty much play on even terms with. And those are I would say the two.
The Dogs have a nice setup over there near Rosemont. Where do the Milkmen play in Milwaukee?
They're up in Franklin, Milwaukee.
Okay, so they're north of the city?
Yep. And probably about, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes from the city. Almost like we are from Chicago.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They have a nice ballpark there, and we'll see. They're hosting the All-Star game this year too. And it's supposed to be a really well done All-Star game in July. So we'll see how that goes, and wish them luck. And having hosted 4 of them here, we know it's a big undertaking, but it should be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break and have one of our fine sponsors tell us a little bit about their particular operation. And when we return, Paul's going to talk with Curtis a bit about this year's Cougars and what to expect. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. This is Ray 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐞. I'd like to say a few words about my friends at the 𝐬𝐻 Group of restaurants, one of our sponsors. I've been a frequent guest at all of their fine restaurants for years, one of which is Rookies, which has locations throughout the Fox Valley and beyond. My favorite dish at Rookies is the gyros plate with the saganaki appetizer. Oopa! My wife, she loves the Hall of Fame chicken sandwich. But I can honestly say that I've never had a bad meal there, regardless of whatever I've had to eat. The wings are out of this world, the salads are delicious, great burgers, tacos, all-American specialties, and don't forget their pizza. And of course, you can wash this all down with one of their famous Mai Tais. Try them out. St. Charles, Geneva, Elgin, Hoffman Estates, Huntley, and Roselle. RookiesPub.com. I'll see you there. We're back with General Manager Curtis Haug. And Paul, let's talk a bit about the 2023 Cougars.
Yeah. Well, Curtis, again, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you here. You were our first interview last year, if I'm pretty sure. At least the first one we were in the same room with people. So
that's cool.
That is exactly correct.
Yeah, wow. That was great. That was somehow it all worked out. So it feels like coming home here. It was almost a year today.
Right.
Something like that
in the spring.
Yeah,
and it's our first year anniversary with the podcast too.
Really?
Yes,
good for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we survived. We all survived another year.
We all survived.
Seriously, we all survived. Holy cow.
So looking forward to this summer, that I noticed in the press releases and wherever that you re-signed a couple of your pitchers that were just lights out last year. And I didn't realize that you had pitchers of this quality last year. Jack Fox and Weston Muirs, right? Muir. I mean, they were just dominant. I mean, Fox was 11-0, something like that.
Really, really good years.
With the 11 wins, 3.04 ERA, struck out 73 in 91.2 innings. Rookie of the year, 4th best ERA in the league, number 1 for righties. So you must be really excited about it. And then Muir was 7-0. Same kind of numbers. So you must be really excited about your rotation, if nothing else.
For sure. To have those two guys back is really big, to have them as part of the rotation, because obviously you need 5 guys. And that's 2 of the 5 right there.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Weston he went to St. Charles North.
I did not know.
I did not know that either.
That's kind of a nice local
absolutely
a spin to it. He might be a good guy.
I imagine. Yeah.
I mean, he just really surprised us, to be honest with you. Him coming in second half of the year, going 7-0. Yeah, he was a really pleasant surprise. Jack, of course, we expected, good things from him. And as we get closer to the season, as we put our roster together, it'll be interesting to see what kind of other pitchers we have to support these guys.
Yeah. So where are you in that process? I remember last year you were still quite a ways away. I don't know. Same thing this year? Or no?
Same thing. We got about 10 guys officially contracted on the roster at this point. I would say the biggest name that we have at this point is Pete 𝐂𝐮𝐿, who played for the Cardinals.
Okay, yeah.
And he's gonna be part of our infield. But most of the other guys were here last year, and we're familiar with them. But our manager, George, he's out there, scouring for more good players. And we look for basically we're looking for guys that have had either a minimum of AA or AAA experience.
Okay.
Those are the kind of guys.
Yeah.
So these are good players. I mean, they're more mature, they're more experienced, they're bigger and stronger than what we had when we were affiliated. Because back when we were affiliated, gosh, it was guys 18, 19, 20 years old. They were babies, really.
Right.
And definitely the ceiling was a lot higher when we were affiliated. But these guys can play.
The quality of baseball is better.
The quality of baseball is better, and the fans know. The fans see it.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, and you did mention last year that on occasion, and I think you had this with the Cougars, a former major leaguer who's looking to try to get back in, sees this as the avenue to get there.
For sure. And we had a pitcher, if you guys remember, Vance Worley last year. He was one of our starters. Vance was several years in the majors and pitched. I had a pretty good career. He just was the starting pitcher for Great Britain against the U.S. in the World Baseball Classic.
I didn't recognize him, but I did recognize the name now.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
To have the former Cougar out there starting against Team USA in the World Baseball Classic.
Well, there's another Cougar pitcher. He got a start in this year's for the Mets in the spring training, and I think he's going to make the team. I can't remember the guy's name. Do you remember his name? He's with the Mets. He was here in 17, 18. And in fact, he was the player of the year or something in 20. Oh no, he threw a perfect game in 2017 for the Cougars.
Connor Gray, was it?
Yeah,
Connor Gray.
Yeah. So apparently he's going to make the Mets this
Well,
year.
and with Diaz being out for the year, you never know.
Maybe there's a spot. And
Yes,
Connor
sir.
Gray's, we have the rubber actually from his perfect game out in our case out here in the atrium.
Yeah,
which is cool.
It is cool.
I didn't realize how big a rubber was.
Well, and the bases are going to be big. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The bases are going to be larger as well.
I don't know if you've seen those commercials with the guy, the catcher who's on first and wanting to steal, and he keeps looking back and forth at the manager. The manager's going, and the catcher keeps looking at the base going. Of course, he takes off. And the manager, it's hilarious. Anyway, sorry. So and so to get back to the quality of the players and the details about that, as I recall, the league has requirements, right? I mean, in terms of stratifying your team in terms of age groups. Is that right, or is that still the case?
Yeah, that's still the case. You've got the veterans, you've got the rookies, and you've got the the LS1s, LS2s, and all that. And yeah, I mean, bottom line is, again, these guys are older, they're more experienced, but they hit the ball hard, they throw the ball, with velocity. I mean, it's AA, AAA type players out here. It's a different, and I was concerned when we switched over from affiliated to this. I was like, oh my gosh, where's this going to go? But is our fans are going to recognize, but they're recognizing that it's the difference. The quality of play is better than it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Overall.
Right. Well, it's there's the other element that, again, I recall from talking to you, actually not even last year, it was the year before, when you first joined the American Association. You expressed a great deal of happiness about the fact that you could play to win, and you could make your own decisions, as opposed to it's a tie game, and the league calls up and says, put in that 18-year-old kid,
right.
You got to work him. It doesn't matter what the situation.
Or
Because now you can decide yourself, we're going to win. We're going to try to win.
Or moving him up somewhere, and he'll be gone the next day on the roster.
Right,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, this league definitely plays to win. It's a lot different than what we were before, where it was all development. It was all player development. There was pitch counts. There was, all sorts of, they would put guys on the shelf in August and rest them, and it was a whole different animal.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of direction, like you said, from the major league front office.
Yeah.
Basically dictating everything that went on, on the field, and whether a guy would bat fourth or a guy would bat leadoff, or this guy would pitch 60 pitches one game, whatever it was. There was a lot of direction. We control it all.
Yeah.
We don't have, there's no direction.
I remember you were affiliated with the Marlins. I believe it was the Marlins. Just to the point about players coming in at times they wouldn't normally come in. I saw John Terrell Willis pitch an inning of relief, and that was clearly a call from above. I mean, it made no sense in the course of the game. Of course, on the other hand, he struck the sides out 9 pitches. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
he was unreal.
He was something special.
That ball was electric.
Yeah, it really was
mind-boggling.
And when he was pitching, the staff knew, our front office staff knew that it was going to be a quick game because this guy, a 2-hour game.
Yeah,
it was just amazing, and he was so dominant that the year he was with us.
Chains flying. I mean, that big leg kick. Whoosh.
And he has had a productive post-major league career as an analyst on the MLB Network.
Yes. And on Fox, too.
And on Fox, that's great.
Yeah, he's done well for himself. And he played with a lot of emotion.
He did. He was pumped up, man.
Big time.
Yeah.
You didn't see that very often, especially from a pitcher.
Yeah, yeah.
You talked last year about the fact that you're kind of happy that you dodge April and the bad weather. So my question is simple: when does this party get started? When's opening day?
Oh my gosh, you hit it right on the head. We're so happy that we dodge April. It's probably one of the best things about being in the American Association is not having to play April games in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
That is for sure. The party starts May 11th, though. That's the opening night. And it's a thirsty Thursday, and we should have a lot of fun.
That's awesome. All right, we're gonna check out for one more commercial break, and when we get back, Ray's going to talk to you about a little bit about MLB and some of the new changes and how that's going to affect you guys if it is, lots of other stuff. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
At McNally Heating and Cooling, we understand that customer satisfaction starts with arriving at your home on time. Your service technician will apply the same attention to detail and quality workmanship to every job, large or small. We offer upfront, honest pricing, and we'll make sure the job gets done right from start to finish. From furnace and air conditioning service, minor repairs, or total equipment replacement, we do it all. Give us a call or find us online and let the luck of the Irish work for you.
Let's play ball.
We are back here at Northwestern Medicine Field with our friend Curtis Haug, the general manager of the Kane County Cougars. And Curtis, baseball this year is in some new rules, notably the pitch clock, the elimination of the shift, and larger bases. First question out of the gate is the American Association adopting these rules just as is?
The American Association, we are going to implement the pitch clock.
All right.
So that's the biggest change.
There'll be some out in center field for the fans to watch.
Yep.
Okay.
There'll be one in center field. There'll be one behind the plate as well. There'll be 2 clocks. That's the biggest rule change in the American Association this year. The bigger bases, no, we're not. We're not going to eliminating the shift. The other thing that we're sticking with is the man on second base in extra innings. So that will continue.
Am I correct? Is Major League Baseball going to have the 10th inning second?
I think they are in a regular season.
I think they are
in regular season.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like that, but I know what it does.
Postseason, I think they're going back to, you know, the.
Right.
I'd ask both you guys for this opinion, though. Okay, we're eliminating the shift. How about in the ninth inning, though, when there's a man on third and the visiting team is facing do or die, to bring somebody in from the outfield and have a 5-person infield? Is that okay? Is that a shift?
I'm trying to remember the wording of the rule. It has to do with how many players are on one side of second base, right? Isn't that how they calculate it?
Right.
So if you bring in a fifth, but he's not in the infield, that's a fair question.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I'm against the shift only because I just don't think it's. No, I'm against eliminating the shift because I don't think it's fair to tell a manager how he can position his players. You know, I just don't think that's right, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so the shift is still allowable here in the American Association this year, but we're going to have a pitch clock.
For sure.
And I think fans will like that. The evidence suggests the spring training games were cut down time-wise, and so we'll have to wait and see. Hey, part of the fun of minor league baseball in particular, I know the major leagues have done a lot of promotion as well, but the minor leagues are really noted for some offbeat promotions here and there that really the fans are endeared to. I always talk about. I still can't believe I saw a Roman Catholic nun doing a Messiah behind home plate for the St. Paul Saints at Midway Stadium back in the day. So the question is simple. What have the Cougs got planned for this summer? We mentioned Thursday. Anything new?
You know, we've got a really good promotional schedule that we've put out. And yeah, there's quite a few new things for sure. Just some of the theme nights that we're doing, like we're doing a tie-dye night, we're doing a Hawaiian night. We've got the Star Wars night. You know, we're going to continue that. We've got Seinfeld night where Phil Morris is going to make
Pat Crimmins will like that.
So it seems like we're going to do a Parks and Rec night where Jerry will make an appearance. And I think the fans, when it comes to these theme nights and this pop culture stuff, they really like those kind of things. Whether it's us providing a bobblehead of one of the characters or us providing a character appearance out here. Those always seem to go well. We've got a halfway to Halloween night in May, and the kids seem to enjoy that. Get dressed up. We got a Marvel superhero night here, Christmas in July. You name it. We've got all sorts of fun theme nights. And you mentioned Thirsty Thursday, where fans on Thursdays, $2 beers, $2 hot dogs. I mean, how can you beat that? You come here with $20, you can pretty much have all sorts of fun.
And we mentioned offline that a book's coming out here as this thing is viewed by our audience. I think it'll probably be out already. It's called The Circus of Baseball, and it's about the Asheville Tourist, a minor league team. I think it's AA, located in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. And you said that Thirsty Thursday originated there. I was reading about Asheville because we're headed there, and they have 28 breweries in town.
For sure, they have. Thirsty Thursday originated with the Asheville Tourists. It's pretty cool. And every year we have to re-up our little rights to use that Thirsty Thursday when it comes to, T-shirts or whatever we do with that promotion. And it's just amazing that in little Asheville, North Carolina, that's where it all started. It's pretty cool.
Speaking of bobbleheads, I introduced my bobblehead collection to our audience in a separate podcast. And I have to tell you, I have no Cougar bobbleheads down there. So it'll be my mission this summer to get at least one, if not more than one, Cougar bobblehead to add to the collection. I would be honored to have that.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you don't have a bobblehead from the Cougars.
I do not. So many. I do not, but one's a coming, I'm sure.
Have you seen his basement? He's got a bobblehead for all the presidents. He's got bobbleheads for everything.
We'll have to have you. I'm going to have you over for a adult beverage, perhaps, and we'll bring the gang in there. This summer for sure. That'd be
cool.
Hey, before we leave today, I think you're a baseball guy through and through, and you just exude baseball. So it's only appropriate that you, perhaps being a GM and certainly on the inside, give us at least a superficial view of the baseball pennant races this year at the major league level, American National. You don't have to get in depth, but you got some thoughts on maybe who are the teams that are going to make a mark and move forward to the championship. Have at it, and maybe a surprise or two.
Yeah, I think there's probably 10 teams that really have a legitimate shot, and of course, you got to look at both New York teams, the Mets and Yankees, what they're doing, the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Braves, of course. But then you've got some you can't overlook the Astros, the defending champs. I mean, they're loaded, and they just seem to be getting better. And then you've got some of the teams maybe on the fringe, like the Cardinals. I think have a good shot, and maybe some of the teams that you might not think of that. Maybe it's Seattle or.
I was just going to say, do you like the Mariners? I think
maybe the Mariners have a shot, but overall, I think it's you got 10 teams, in my opinion, that really have a legitimate chance to win the World Series, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Major League Baseball has changed so much too. Especially with all the technology. I think technology is probably the biggest change with Major League Baseball, whether it's from the player development side or whether it's from the fan experience side, or even the whole broadcasting side of it. Technology has just changed Major League Baseball so much.
Do you like the fact that more so than ever, as you watch it game, there's all kinds of statistics being poured out to the fan. There's graphics of how many times this player hits the right field, etc. Do you like that?
To me, it's a little bit overwhelming at times. It's like, holy cow! Where are you coming up with these statistics? But the whole analytics thing is really a major part of it now, and they're incorporating it into everything, not just the player development side, but also the fan experience and the broadcasting side.
Now you talked to the manager of the Cougars, and so especially a manager who might have been around for a while, was old school and used to just make all kinds of decisions by the gut.
Yeah.
Now in the dugout, I suppose they have all kinds of stats.
For sure, and that's something this league is doing a better job with. We have Rapsodo in all the ballparks this year, and all that information, all that analytics is going to go to every major league team. So us being a major league partner league so now Major League Baseball is going to see all that information on every player from this league, and which is really going to help our guys get a better look.
I would be remiss if I didn't close by asking this question. Is it still the long-term vision of the Cougars to be associated with a major league team?
I think right now we're happy where we're at. But, of course, we'll see what the future holds. It's hard to tell, but, we're so much, the Cougars are so much about the fan experience, the entertainment, the convenience, the affordability. No matter what we are, affiliated or not affiliated, we're still about entertaining, the fans. That's what it really boils down to. It's the post-game fireworks, it's the theme nights, it's the, the fan experiences that we provide. It's the affordable tickets, the great food, the cold beer, all that stuff. I mean, that's what we're about. And so I don't really, it's hard to say.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I went to a spring training game in Glendale with the White Sox a few weeks ago. And I have to tell you, I sat there and, I heard that the Cubs Sox spring training game, the ticket was going for $80 for a box seat. Now I'm thinking to myself, dear God, I'm watching this game and I see a lot of minor league players. Back to Paul's earlier point about a developmental league versus a league where you're playing to win. And, I kind of like that idea. And I see that gleam in your eye when you talk about that. So it seems to be the question's fair, but at the same time, I think your answer, well, we'll have to wait and see. Let's see what unfolds. And we're happy where we're at. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we're happy where we're at. And what I mean by that is Paul, Pat, and I, all three of us are just very excited about the fact that we have a sponsorship with the Cougars this summer. We will be here several times live to do a podcast among the fans and among hopefully some players and talk to them. And then perhaps just have a lot of fun, which I think is the model for the Kane County Cougars. And so, again, much appreciation for what you do for the Cougars, and thanks for coming on here and providing our listening audience and our viewing audience with a nice capsule of what the season unfolds. We really appreciate it, Curtis.
Well, I appreciate the time, and it's really about, we've got a really good front office staff here. They're just all very passionate about what we do. And I tell you what, without them, none of this would be possible. They're just super people, and that's what it really is about. That's what I found out in my career and my experiences. It's about the people, whether it's the vendors, whether it's about the clients, the staff, the fans. It's about people. That's what makes it so fun, for sure.
Still have the pork chop sandwich?
We sure do. We sure do.
Thank you, Curtis. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And so, friends, for our producer and pinch hit co-host, Paul Stukel, fighting the good fight and wishing good things for the Chicago Cubs, this is Ray 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐞, keeping a low profile this baseball season and waiting for the White Sox to prove they really are a good baseball team. Wishing you a pleasant day as you move outdoors, admire the green grass of the outfield, the smell of ballpark cuisine, and of course, hope does spring eternal. Wishing you and your team a productive summer. Get out your favorite jersey, cap, and comfortable shoes and play ball. So long, everyone, and be safe.
All right! Let me hear ya! Gary Presley, the last time at home this year. Everybody, one, two, three. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Find me some peanuts and forget. I don't care. Root for the Cubbies if they